Ansu Fati was once labelled as the future of Barcelona, a player with magic in his boots. At just 16, he was already breaking records. By 17, he was scoring Champions League winners at the San Siro, and by 18, he inherited Lionel Messi's iconic number 10 shirt. And yet now, in 2025, he's barely featured under Hansi Flick. He's gone from being Barcelona's brightest star to a bench warmer facing the exit door.
So what happened? How did Ansu Fati go from being football's next global superstar to one of the sport's most tragic what could have been stories? Let's dive deep into the meteoric rise and heartbreaking fall of Ansu Fati.
His journey started in 2012 when a 10-year-old Ansu Fati joined La Masia, Barcelona's well-renowned youth academy. From day one he stood out. He had pace, flair, intelligence beyond his years and an eye for goal that coaches just couldn't believe. They already were calling him the next big thing. By July 2019, at just 16 years old, Ansu Fati signed his first professional contract. And just a few weeks later, in August 2019, he made his La Liga debut in a 5-2 win against Real Betis. In this match, he became the second youngest player to debut for Barcelona in La Liga. And then history was made. Just a week after that, Ansu Fati became Barcelona's youngest ever goal scorer, scoring his first professional goal against Osasuna.
But he didn't stop there. He quickly began shattering records, becoming the youngest player in the Liga to score and assist in the same match. He also became the youngest Barca player to make a Champions League appearance and also became the third youngest player to ever feature in the competition. Then came December 10th, 2019, a night that defined his early career. Barca were facing Inter Milan at the San Siro. Fati came off the bench and scored a late winner, sealing a 2-1 victory, becoming the youngest goal scorer in Champions League history just after turning 17. Ansu Fati wasn't just promising, he was producing at the very top level. Consistently calm, clinical and fearless, he was Messi's heir to the throne and everyone knew it.
The 2020-21 season began with even more promise. Ansu was on fire. He picked up La Liga's Player of the Month in September and even became the second youngest goal scorer in El Clasico history. He was Barcelona's future and the present, but then came November 7th, 2020. In a league match against Real Betis, Ansu Fati was forced off at half-time due to a torn meniscus in his left knee. Barcelona initially announced he'd miss around 4 months, but then it turned to 9. But why exactly was that the case? Well, this is where things started to unravel behind the scenes. His first surgery was performed by a respected doctor with an excellent track record, someone who had worked on legends like Xavi and Aguero. But just a week later, the club took control of Ansu's rehabilitation, and that decision may have changed everything. Barcelona's medical team put Fati on an intensive programme, 2 recovery sessions per day. It was rushed, aggressive and short-sighted, and instead of speeding up the recovery, it caused inflammation on the knee.
2 months later, Ansu had to undergo surgery again. A second surgery, then a third in early 2021 as his knee failed to respond. Desperate for a proper fix, Fati travelled to Madrid, but even there, the problems persisted. Eventually, he had a 4th surgery, this time undergoing a meniscectomy, where the most damaged part of the knee is removed altogether, and that is 4 surgeries in just 6 months. Despite everything, Barcelona still believed in him. Heading into the new season, they gave him the number 10 shirt, the one Messi had just vacated after he left to go to PSG. But to his credit, Fati did not shy away. He returned from injury in the Supercopa semi-final against Real Madrid and scored a crucial equaliser just 17 minutes after coming on. It was a flash of brilliance and a reminder of the talent that lingered beneath all of the pain.
Later that same season, he suffered a hamstring injury against Bilbao just when he was gaining momentum. That year he managed only 10 La Liga appearances and just 15 across all competitions. It was clear that his body was struggling to keep up, but why exactly were these injuries so frequent, and why were they affecting other muscles in his body as well? Well, the club physio had this to say. One possible hypothesis as to why he injured the bicep femoris of the contralateral leg on which he had the knee operation on could be because he unconsciously compensated more with this leg and the rest of his body. That is to say, asking much more effort from the non-operated leg of the knee.
Ansu Fati's game had visibly changed. As a teenager, he played with flair and freedom, darting past defenders, scoring with ease and raging with confidence. But post-injury, he was much more tentative. He stopped taking players on, he looked cautious, afraid, like a player constantly second-guessing his movements because he just simply wasn't able to be as explosive and move how he did when he first put on a Barcelona shirt. And even Barca's club physio acknowledged this shift as he said, the key is Fati gaining confidence. It is a question of time, not renovation. And that summed it up perfectly. It wasn't just about regaining fitness, it was about rebuilding belief within his own body, something much harder to measure and even harder to fix.
In the 2022-2023 season, things did not improve under Xavi, with Fati being benched behind the likes of Rafinha and Dembele, both players that at that time should not be starting over Fati when at his best. But he couldn't break back in. When chances came, he struggled to make an impact. And after these frequent hamstring injuries seemingly taking his spark away, Ansu Fati thought it was best that he moved elsewhere. So on the 1st of September 2023, Ansu Fati joined Premier League side Brighton on loan. It was his chance to rest, it was his chance to gain some minutes, and it was his chance to be out of the spotlight of playing for Barcelona. However, unfortunately for Fati, the story was, well, quite familiar. Just looking at his statistics here, he only registered 2 goals in 19 Premier League appearances for Brighton, 2 and 6 in the Europa League, and 4 and 30 appearances in total. He just wasn't gaining that spark back, and he wasn't replicating that form that he showed when he first burst onto the scene. And plus the fact he suffered frequent injuries at Brighton, just like he did at Barcelona. The poor lad couldn't catch a break. Now in 2025, Ansu Fati's future is still unclear. Yes, he's only 22, but he's no longer the jewel in Barcelona's crown. That belongs to Lamine Yamal. He finds himself on the fringes of Hansi Flick's squad, with the German looking to sell him as soon as possible. And it's not just about injuries anymore, it's about confidence, momentum, lost time, and the saddest part is that we may never know how good Ansu Fati can become because of those frequent injuries that derailed him at a younger age.